and welcome to the Growing Healthy Families podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Haggerty. On this show, I interview the world's top health experts so that you can know with certainty what it takes to give your family a life of epic health and wellness.
As parents, we don't want to see our kids struggle. I knew that he had the potential, and I knew that something needed to be done.
It was hard. We would get frustrated. We didn't know how to deal with it. I was more emotional about it.
Or that, we're here. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. All right, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Scott Haggerty, and thank you for watching the Growing Healthy Families podcast. I am so excited today to be able to spend some time with this amazing mom, Nina. And so, Nina is a mom of one of my favorite little dudes here in our practice. I'm super excited because she's going to share with us today her family story. And so, first and foremost, Nina, thank you so much for being here today.
No problem. Thanks
so we appreciate you taking the time, and I think that the people who are watching and will later listen to the podcast, I think are going to get a lot of value. Because I think that it's really interesting when you can come in and share your experiences and talk about what you've been through and some of the changes that you've seen. So thank you very much for doing this.
No problem.
So first and foremost, let's just kind of start at the beginning. So when you first started coming to see us, and even before then, what were some of the challenges that you guys were dealing with?
Well, ADHD was a big one, and we're in second grade this year, so that was like really showing its colors. We always had an idea that he had problems with that. Major issues with focus at school, not finishing his work, and some like anger outbursts where one small thing would happen and it's just like blows up into this automatic meltdown rather than what a normal reaction would be for that. So a few different issues.
Yeah. So what was life like with that for you and your family?
Stressful. Always yelling, always repeating ourselves, and a lot of fights. So everything was kind of a fight. Homework was a fight. So not fun.
Yeah. And what about in school? What was school like?
School, like I said, this was the first year that it started to become a challenge with his schoolwork. So his first grade teacher did say that she thought maybe he had ADHD, but it wasn't quite an issue yet. And this year there's more work and more need to focus. So his grades were starting to slip a little bit. So that was the first time that we saw him having challenges with learning. So because he's a smart kid. So.
Yeah, little rock star, isn't he? So what did you done prior to meeting us to try and help with his ADHD?
The only step that we really took was meeting at the school with the psychologist and the counselor. They had put some things in place in the classroom for him, like a kick band just to keep him occupied, different behavioral things at school. So it was kind of just the beginning of our exploring treatment options for him when we came to you.
And what was his experience? Did they help?
It helped. It helped for him to have a little bit of way to kind of release his energy, but he was still having trouble like finishing his work. Things were coming home unfinished. Like I said, he's smart, so that like a paper would come home and say 10 questions, and he would only finish 3, and he'd have those 3 right, but the other ones just weren't done. So he was getting things marked wrong just because he wasn't finishing. So that was a big issue for me, was his lack of focus to finish things.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
So, yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. So when you made the decision that it was time to start looking for some other resources, what was the deciding factor? What had happened that made you decide that it was time to start looking outwards?
I think we actually just kind of got lucky because we didn't really start doing any research. My sister actually tagged me in the workshop thing on Facebook, and she's like, "Hey, this looks interesting." So I was like, "Oh, let me look into that," and it kind of just fell in our laps. So I feel lucky, like we didn't really have to do research, where like other issues we've had with him with the autoimmune, we've done a lot of research and a lot of different doctors. So I kind of feel lucky that we didn't have to go through that whole array of trying this and that and a million things.
Yeah. So when you're at the perfect storm, obviously we go through a lot there. What made you decide that this was going to be the right place for you?
I never wanted to try medication, so just trying something natural that could help in other aspects of his life too, besides the ADHD, and just that it all kind of made sense, the way that everything was explained, and the traumatic birth, he was a C-section, it was a long labor, so all that kind of added up in my brain that this could be causing his issues. So there was definitely a cause and effect there that made sense to me, and it was worth trying.
So obviously you made the decision to start into care. And as we talked about, and for those of you who are wondering, it's a process, right? Care is very much a process that it's a momentum builder. But as you're going through and you're observing and wanting obviously to see some results, at what point did you know that things were starting to change?
Like a timeline?
Yeah, like what are some timelines, some things you started to observe?
I would say it really, I know that you talked about in the workshop that there would be some regression, and we did see a little bit of that. I mean, I wouldn't say it was extreme. So that did get a little frustrating, but we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And then I would say it was probably maybe 6 weeks, 2 months in, that like all of a sudden one day I told him to get up for school, and he got up, made his bed, brushed his teeth, put his clothes on, and came downstairs, and I was like, wait, who are you? Why are you dressed already? And that like became a pattern. So that was like that was the big one, was that I didn't have to tell him 100 times to brush his teeth, and he just got up and did it. It seemed like it was like went from nothing to great overnight. So it was like a big jump.
It's funny because that's a conversation that I think we may have had even in the
yeah, I remember telling you that, like, woo!
Yeah. Yep. And it's funny because that's actually a real common thing. Is it's almost like there's a switch that happens where they go to bed one way and they wake up the next day. And it's like, where'd my kid go?
And I said that to him. I was like, where's my son? What'd you do with him? Who are you?
I know, and it's funny because one of the interesting things that's happening is that in the background there's been all this accumulation of stuff that's been happening and connecting and building, and then all of a sudden one day it just becomes like a new program, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool when you can actually say that, wow, it's like this moment when things started to change.
Yeah, and I kind of wasn't expecting that, to see like an exact day where it was like, wow, everything's different all of a sudden. I thought it would be a more gradual, like maybe we wouldn't notice the change, but I definitely noticed. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So since that moment, what have you seen in school and at home?
School, I actually, the other day, and I was going to bring the paper with me, at the beginning of the year, there was a major issue that he had with like a spelling paper. They had to correct grammar and do a spelling, and he was always getting Fs, literally, on these papers from not finishing, not doing punctuation, and he got a 95% the other day. So I was it's like hanging out in the fridge. I was
That's
so
awesome.
So yeah, he's finishing his work.
Good.
He's still a little troublesome with silliness, but that's just his personality, so it doesn't really have anything to do with his focus. But he's getting less behavioral, marks coming home for talking out or talking to his friends, so he's be able to concentrate a little bit more.
Good. Now, how are things at home?
Much calmer, much calmer. So he, there's still the meltdowns here and there, like any normal 7-year-old. Yeah. But he was one who, as soon as something went wrong, like he couldn't figure out a math problem, he'd just scream and run away and couldn't even deal with it. And now he'll ask for help, so he's much calmer about when things go wrong. So it's calmer for all of us.
That's great.
Yeah, it's nice.
So at this point, things are becoming more consistent.
Yes, definitely.
That's a wonderful thing to hear. So obviously this is probably ease the stress in the home a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. So if you could look back and looking back a few months and talk to yourself and you're sitting there in the report room and talk to yourself, what would you tell yourself looking back a few months? So about what to expect and what you would see.
I would say just do it and be patient, and the change will happen. It takes time, and just stick with it.
Yeah. Well,
because it's a commitment, it's a time commitment, it's a financial commitment, but it's worth it because, it's for a lifetime of changes, So you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and you guys have been like the model of what a perfect family unit in terms of what needs to be done to try and get the maximum results, because I can't recall if you guys have missed appointments at all, but if they have, they've been extremely frequent.
We had one hand, foot, and mouth disease issue.
So, but the consistency is really important. And I think that's one of the big things when you start looking at anything, whether it's you're doing chiropractic or occupational therapy or anything. There's a consistency aspect that is essential. And one of the things I love that you said is about the commitment. Because it does require commitment to be able to go and get the best results. And so you guys have really devoted the time trying to make sure that he's going to get here, whether it's yourself or your husband or other family members, to make sure that he gets the care. And I think it's been fantastic because, obviously then he's seen the tangible benefits, and then in terms of the family seen tangible benefits.
Right. And that's the key is, you don't want to start it and kind of do it half halfway, because how are you going to know whether it would have worked if you did it the way you're supposed to? So like you said, with anything, you know, you have to kind of go all in and just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really, really true. And I think if anyone here is listening to this or watching this, like, just keep that in mind, right? No matter what you're going to do. So it's the consistency with which you do any kind of a therapy, right? Whether you're doing chiropractic care, anything. It's essential that there's a consistency, because the brain takes time to change. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and it has to build momentum, because remember the term we talked about, the nerves that wire together fire together, right? It's this process of the brain has to literally learn how to operate in a different way. And so it takes momentum and time and frequency for the brain to get to the point where it's able to do what Nina was talking about, is that crossover point where one day he woke up and there was just a new operating system where the brain had switched. So keep those things in mind when you're looking at ways to go and help your own child, because it does make a huge difference in the results that you're going to get. Is that consistency factor and the commitment factor to make sure that you're getting the time and the work in, so that you can really get the maximum results from this.
I agree.
So, well, Nina, I thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This was excellent.
Well, thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, it's completely my pleasure.
We appreciate you guys.
Oh, we appreciate you guys. So if you guys have questions here about the podcast today, make sure that you let us know. If there's other topics you'd like to learn more about, make sure that you also put those in the comment section as well, and we will make sure that we will get a podcast up for you as soon as possible. So again, thank you again, Nina. Thank you for all of you who are watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And otherwise, we will see you on the next episode. This is Dr. Scott. God bless. Be elite. Thank you for listening to the Growing Healthy Families podcast, the world's #1 source for health education. Make sure to go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a review. Make sure to follow us on social media at the links listed in the show notes, and let us know what area of health you are struggling with, so we can get you and your family on the road to epic health.